Hello and welcome to Min Brand Talk. Today we have with us Samrit Dasgupta, Chief Marketing Officer at pet care brand Heads Up for Tail. In his last stint, Dasgupta was responsible for marketing and communications for Bombay Shaving Company. In all, Dasgupta brings with him over 19 years of experience across sales, marketing, and advertising. At Heads Up for Tails, he is responsible for scaling growth across the levers of brand and marketing, partnerships, community, culture, and engagement, as well as product innovation. Thank you for joining us on the show, Samrid. Let's start with a couple of questions. You joined, Heads Up for Tail fairly recently. So, what was your mandate really? You've entered a fairly new category. What was the mandate to for your marketing role here at Heads Up for Tail?
Thanks, Sunira. I think it's actually a delight and a privilege to join a category leader within an emerging category. So I think a lot of things are a little easier than they would be for newer brands and new incumbent brands. The mandate's actually very clear. We are a value and purpose driven organization, and we are here to make the lives of pets and pet parents far easier. It's a very joyous journey. I'm a pet parent. I have dogs and cats, so I have been through this journey for the last 39 years. And one thing that I've realized is that uh, you never have the most relevant knowledge or the most relevant products that aid that journey, that aid the best journey that you end up having with your pet. And the mandate here is really to try and influence people to arrive at what is the best possible way of doing that. We are sitting at an intersection of content and commerce. We genuinely believe that we have an opportunity to spread awareness, to engage with people in meaningful ways where they're able to learn. We have 14 years of experience, which stems from learning and understanding how pets need to be taken care of, what are the do's and don'ts, what are good products, what are bad products. And we are also able to forecast a lot of trend lines. Therefore, we create products that are a little ahead of time, but become extremely relevant as you go ahead. So the mandate is to get those products in front of people. We are also extremely omni-channel. In fact, we own
Right.
our own stores, so the experience is completely in our control. So the mandate of marketing again is to make sure that there is a technology layer on top of our omni-channel integration, and really have a unified customer experience and customer journey across our touch points, which is our website and our stores. So it's a very interesting time. We're building a lot of new things. We're expanding across categories, and I'm really glad to be here.
Great. So, Samrid, this is a category that was actually built by the FMCG companies, if I'm not mistaken. It was largely the Mars, and other brands that they sell that actually build this from a pet food point of view. But your mandate would, of course, be to expand it to other products as well. So, how are you going to go about doing that? Is there enough category, desire here? Is there enough brand awareness? Is there enough demand for such products currently? What do you feel?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic question. Food, food's not a very complex thing to solve for other than supply chains, right? Food is a given. It's what people need. It's what dogs need and
Yeah.
cats need to live. Um, what we have done as Heads for Tails is to really look at emerging needs. So the way our business is split through, we look at food, then we look at lifestyle, we look at grooming, and we look at very specific special needs, right? And if you see the growth trajectory in the Indian ecosystem, what's happened is people have started to look for very specific products to solve very specific problems. Uh, Example is our orthopedic dog beds. India is a large breeds market. When we adopt Indies are large. Alsatians, Doberman, or Labradors and Golden Retrievers are large breeds, and they end up getting arthritic over a period of time. So we have very special orthopedic beds which are there. Indian families generally end up feeding the dogs, home cooked food, which is not
Hmm.
probably the most balanced meal there is, as opposed to global markets where there is packaged food. So that emerging trend is coming to India right now, and people are choosing better packaged food as compared to what is already there in the market, right? Um, I think the I think the way the share of wallet has changed, especially when it comes to both awareness of expenditure and allocation of expenditure. If you look at the last 18 months, probably 24 months, there's been a tectonic shift in the market. Adoption has become a lot more prevalent. And post COVID or during COVID, there was a
Right.
lot of going back home and being with family. And then, younger people went back and they started to sort of engage more with the pets in the household. or they got pets themselves because of companionship. So the share of wallet that has now become associated with pet care is far higher and considerably higher as compared to the last 18 months. So we see that emerging shift not only just in foods, but in treat, in collars, leashes, harnesses, clothes, beds, furniture, fun times, which is essentially the bunch of toys that we have, and very specific grooming services, especially the natural range of grooming services that we
Right.
have. People also want to take their pets to a spa because
Yeah.
it's messy to get a dog's coat done at home and so on and so forth. So we enjoy a lot of people who walk in with their pets and really cherish that moment with their pets in our spas. So that's another service that we provide.
So I just want to understand, Samrit, who's a typical target consumer in India? How would you define that person? What's the age group like? What's the SEC?
You know, I think SECs and age groups are a little uh, old school formats of classifying customers. The way we look at it, I think we classify customers in terms of aspiration and life stages, right? Anyone who has a dog or a cat, and anyone who is on the fence to have a dog and cat, anyone who's a pet lover is our audience. Anyone who's a pet owner. So a lot of times, what happens is people own pets, but the way they own pets is more of an acquisition, and then people love pets but might not have the pet. So, you love an
Right.
animal, but you don't necessarily have it at home. We cater to both, right? So we cater to them. We cater across age groups. So we see an extremely large, diverse set of age groups that we solve for. We are solving for emerging markets, so it's not just the top 5 cities now. We are steadily influxing into the top 15, 20 odd cities. Um, we see a lot of latent demand, which is now being fulfilled through marketplaces and through our website. And these are demands which has probably been pent up over a long period of time because people are globally traveled and they have come back and they want better products and they want better solutions, right? It's the way the market has expanded over the last 18 months, as I mentioned. There are two or three things that have happened. One, um, the demographic shift, uh, which has enabled younger people to adopt dogs and cats and really start to allocate the share of wallet. That's happened.
Sure.
So we also seeing a growth curve between the 18 to a 24, which earlier was a
Oh,
24 to a 45, right? So that's one. The tier two markets, which is essentially people having gone back home and now working from home, but they're used to the kind of products they used to get when they were in the town. That has again led to an influx in terms of accessibility and
mm,
then access to products across the line, right? So that's the second piece. And I think the third piece is that a lot of couples and a lot of single people have adopted dogs
mm.
for companionship over this period, and that's just beautiful because I think more families are coming together over it. So that's also another emerging group. Uh, so we see this diversity across the board, and that's really where the growth is coming from.
Right, Samrit, but don't you feel that as of course you're mentioning adoption is increased and as accessibility is increased, there's also too much competition. So how do you stand out? Suddenly we're seeing such a proliferation of pet store chains. There's so much of conversation around pet ownership in India and globally. So how do you stand out? Like, what do you think is your first mover advantage? How do you differentiate yourself? How do you create that brand identity in a market like this then?
Yeah. So first is we don't take it for granted. Just the fact that we were first in the market doesn't mean that we'll always be first in the market, right? So we don't take that for granted. We are always innovating. We have our own labs where we create our own products. So
Yeah,
if you look at the other players, there's a fairly large marketplace approach to their business,
right.
which is they stock multiple brands. We run extremely rich and deep private labels where we
Yeah.
have solved for treats, we have solved for beds, we have solved for accessories, we have solved for grooming. So I think that's a huge differentiator in the market where we are being able to genuinely scientifically develop products that are better for you and your pet, right? And that's not easy to replicate because it's just the depth of research and it's the depth of scientific rigor that's gone behind it, and it's the extensive supply chain that we have built, which is extremely premium ingredients and extremely premium lines of both manufacturing capabilities as well as infrastructure. So that is one. Second,
Right.
I think we're the largest player with the largest footprint. So while that's not something to take for granted, it is an extremely difficult thing to replicate. Not too many people can come in and create real estate influx the way we have
Yeah.
created real estate influx, right? And real estate in India, as you know, you deal with a lot of different businesses. Real estate is one of the most difficult things to crack and to
Sure.
maintain and sustain it. Right, easier to operate e-stores and far more difficult to operate physical stores across the country.
Right.
So we're almost at 50 stores right now across the country, which is a huge advantage for a company of our size. And that's really where we see our ability to engage with the end customer and really create meaningful um, sort of experiences and services for them. Right. And the way we look at our businesses differently. We are not a commoditized brand. We are a consultative brand. So we don't sell things that a lot of other smaller pet stores or emerging pet stores might just be selling. Um, we're deeply consultative. We are deeply conscious about the choices that we make in the product line, and the customer's discerning. And honestly, I think they love that. They love the fact that you get select products, but you get an extremely wide range of very highly curated products when you come to Heads or Tails. And there is, of course, our guarantee and our trust that goes behind it. To stay relevant, and I think that was your question. Um,
Yeah.
it's a never ending battle. Yeah, one needs to keep sort of putting content out there. One needs to create marketing opportunities and conversation opportunities. But our retail expansion is also aiding that. I think we are a brand that has immense amount of organic pull. So while that first movers advantage remains with us for the next 18 to 20 months, the way we look at it, we are also steadily creating new opportunities for us to be able to engage with you. So there are technology fronts that have been created. There are omni-channel fronts that have been created. So a lot of development over the next 12 to 16 months. So watch out what we do.
I wanted to step back a little from your role at Heads Up
Yeah,
for Tails and look at some of your past experiences in D2C. You work with the Bombay Shaving Company, you work with Akiva
yeah.
Superfoods. You know, uh, how different is it sort of navigating that internet first, a marketing ecosystem in India? How mature is it? What all are you learning? What all are you sort of using? What tools are you using? And where do you think, is it in terms of maturity and how brands are using it? And how important is it today?
There's a lot of questions in one. I'll try and I'll try and break it down. I'll try and break it down. You know, so my first foray into internet was around 2015 when I was leading Dine Out, and I think just accessibility of tech, no code solutions, and an ecosystem which comes together to interplay to drive better engagement and better access to products for the end customer, and then better choices and better discoverability. And that's really where the market evolves and operates at. I think that's become extremely prevalent and easy, right? It's literally become one-stop solutions for us to go and create a tech stack which helps. Gone are the days when you have to create everything ground up. There are things that are created and you can deploy. So that's a fantastic advantage, right? So I look at that as an advantage which is extremely difficult to imagine way back in 2014, 15, when we were starting off. Everything had to be created ground up. Now you don't have to, right? So I think that's a massive advantage. Um, it's not very difficult to straddle an internet first business with an omni-channel business. The principles of marketing and the principles of consumer engagement and consumer journeys remains extremely similar. Now, Bombay Shaving was not only an internet first business, we also had a fantastic retail space, which was about 30,000 or outlets, right? Akiva had a retail front. And when you sort of look at the intermesh of D2C with retail, most of the strongest D2C players have actually now gone retail. So you look at the likes of Mama Earth or Momsco, and everyone's retail, right? Because you need that distribution, and you need PSafe is another example where they've gone retail. Um, I think the opportunity of D2C was to get entry into households, but to sustain entry into your shopping basket, which is monthly, you need some degree of retail connection. You need omni-channel connection, and you need last mile, which is Dunzos and the Swiggy Marts of the world. So you need their access points, right? For example, Heads Up for Tails is also on Dunzo, so we get a lot of people who sort of order our products and they want it almost instantly. So there's a 3-hour delivery that we have, right? Uh, I don't think the ecosystem's changed. What's changed is the consumer preference behaviors, right?
Yeah.
So now what we are able to do is track the consumer across the channel. And then we have a unified view of how you buy, what your behavior is, and what are your preference pieces and all of it. And that has enabled brands like us to create very deep, meaningful solutions for you. So I think that's the only difference. The difference is that marketers have been armed with a lot of data, which is rich data. That data informs business decisions, which enables us to bring products which are more relevant. Those products, because they're more relevant, immediately have a larger total addressable market. That total addressable market enables brands to scale up, like ours. And by virtue of that, the market shift between e-commerce and direct-to-consumer and modern trade has become very blurred. So I think it's a fantastic time. It's a consumer-first market here.
Could you talk a little bit about your social media and content strategy? Typically, who all do you engage with? Who are your influencers that you work with? And how much of that conversation does it help drive up? What recent initiatives have you taken? You could just give an overview of that.
I think it's a question that if you ask me probably next quarter, the answer is going to be very different.
Okay.
Yeah. But here
is it because that's how dynamic it is? Like that's how much you
no, it's also about the life stage where we are. It's also about the life stage where we are. I think the brand's built organically. We have been extremely lucky. We haven't had too many influencer engagements. Our influencer engagement is actually the UGC that gets generated because people love our product. So if you actually go through our Instagram and if you go through some of the other places on Facebook, it's amazing the number of people who tag us on their daily life.
Right.
It's the moments that they share with their pets, and they're constantly tagging us. They're constantly sharing that information with us. They're constantly giving us feedback. And that's really how we have grown, right? So I think we're a very creator-first brand, where for us, every person who buys our product is a creator. So we are not looking at a situation where we are getting external creators or external influencers to come in and speak about the product ranges. People are buying it and speaking about it because they love it. They come back to us when they don't like it. They scream at us when they think that we could have done a better job because they have that sense of entitlement because we have been associated with them for so long, right? And we love that. We love the fact that a customer believes that they're a part of our value system, right? So we actually have people who call us and say, "Hey, I bought a treat and I love it. But next time, can you just make sure that that you give me another flavor along with it, right? For example, right? Or can you bring something new because I've just been buying it so often." Love that. So for us, social is about that. Social is about listening to them, listening to the concerns, and engaging with them on a one-on-one level. So even if you go through our Instagram, you'll see that each comment is very thoughtfully replied to. All DMs, which you can't see, of course, when we can see, we reply to them. In fact, we have a fantastic methodology of looking at it. We reply to our DMs. 95% of our DMs are replied to within a period of 4 to 6 hours. Right? So that's one of the mandates, right? So to ensure that there is immediacy of content, because we are also extremely clear that when people are asking a question, it is for a living being, right? So we want to be there, right? So there's a deep-rooted consciousness in the system. The reason I said it might look very different as we go ahead is because we are entering new markets and we want to target newer customers. So we are looking at emerging influencers. We are looking at emerging pet parents who are influencers. And we are trying to see if there is a way that we can co-create content with them, right? But we have a very strong filter. You have to be a pet parent. And you have to have the ability to influence the stories of others, because otherwise, what's the use? So it's a little different than what you would generally see in a personal care brand or a healthcare brand, where everyone's an influencer because you're living that same life.
Yes.
I think in this case, because you're looking at people who have deeply meaningful relationships with their pets, it's a little bit of a tricky slope to walk there and make it commercial, which is not something that we want to do.